Hi, this is Tom Santos with Lesson 5 about spring and winter wheats, hard spring and winter wheats, and the products they make. This one probably will go a little bit longer because we're going to be bouncing in between the lesson and also showing you how to bake, how some of these products bake. So with the technical knowledge and the talent of Eric Swenson from our video department, he's actually going to piece this together so we could talk about the product and then we could show you the product because I think that's important and it would probably make it, I know it's going to make it a little easier to understand. So let's talk about high protein flour. High protein flour, the industry is 13.3% and higher is considered a high protein flour. There's no FDA standard for it. And high protein flour is also high gluten flour. They're interchangeable. High protein, when you mix it with water, it develops gluten. So the more protein, the more gluten. So high protein equals high gluten. New York style pizza. Everybody's seen it, the big stretch on it. High protein flour, a little more tolerant to mixing and fermentation. But think of stretch. That's very important. There's two things I want you to remember with high protein flour. One is the stretch. Think of an elastic band. It's going to stretch. The second is the chew. So when you think of a high protein flour, think of a New York style bagel. When you bite into a New York style bagel, that's a little work. I mean, you got to chew that a little bit and work it. So again, more stretch, more chew, high protein flour. That would be the all trumps. On the Pillsbury side, the balancer. Also remarkable on the General Mills side and so strong also on the Pillsbury side. Okay, through the magic of Eric Swenson, I'm here in the kitchen. So let's get started with the All Trumps pizza flour. Now, I've temped all my water, and here's my thermometer to prove it. I've temped the water. Water with dough goes in first. Remember, dough, when you're making a dough, water goes in first. Then I'm going to put in my sugar, salt, flour. Okay, sugar, salt, flour go in next. The All Trumps flour with the sugar and salt. On top of that, and never mixed unless you're blooming, and we'll talk about blooming in another flour detective, but I have instant yeast, or if you were using a compressed yeast, this goes in next, right on top of the flour. So, and again, I'm not hydrating the yeast. I'm putting it on top of the flour, which water first, flour, sugar, salt, yeast on top. I'm going to mix it for about 30 seconds just to incorporate the water so the flour gets hydrated, and then I'm going to add oil. Okay, it's been about 30 seconds. I've mixed the dough. It has the consistency of a pie crust. Now, I can't show it to you because it's hard to get the computer to show you what the dough looks like inside the mixing bowl. But I think we have a slide that we could insert there to show you what I'm talking about as far as the look of the dough, the look of a pie crust dough. So now I have the oil, and I'm just going to add the oil to the mix, and then I'm going to mix it for about 8 minutes, and I'll see you when it's all mixed. Okay, I mixed the dough, the All Trumps, and what I wanted to show you, when you mix a dough, you have stretch. This is the gluten. I'm stretching it a little bit, and as you stretch it, you can see that it has the dough forming properties of the gluten. The protein's a little higher, so we mixed out the dough. You'll see a big difference when we talk about the pastry flour. So the dough's been mixed, the All Trumps dough, and I just took a little piece of dough to show you. Remember, gluten stretches, elastic band. Think of elastic band. You couldn't do that with the pastry flour, as you'll see, or a cake flour when I talk about the soft wheat. So it's going to stretch. And one thing to always remember when you're mixing a dough, always better to undermix it a little bit by a minute or two than to overmix it. The dough is going to develop as it sits and relaxes either on the bench or fermentating in the refrigerator or retarder overnight. The next flour is spring wheat patent flour. It's our go-between flour. It's about a 12 and a half, 13% flour in the protein range. It is very popular in New England. Now, if you're thinking of a patent flour, think of a little bit softer bite. So remember I said bagel with high protein flour. Think of a hard roll. Now, hard roll has a great chew to it, but a lot softer than a bagel. So as you move down the protein scale, a little bit more mellow, a little less chew to it, you get a nice stretch. It's still spring wheat, so you're going to get a nice stretch. As much stretch as all Trumps? Probably not. And in New England, they make what's called a pan pizza. And a pan pizza, you think it's in a pan, but it's not. It's a hand-tossed pizza. Same as a New York style pizza, except the chew is a little bit softer. So the bite's a little bit softer, not quite as chewy. Patent flour, great for yeast raised sweet goods, great for pan breads, also Italian bread. Up in New England, they make beautiful Italian bread with patent flour. And now that I've shown you a spring wheat, I'm going to go into a couple winter wheats, hard winter wheats. And one of them would be the Di Prima Ordine Farina, Harvest King, and our Neapolitan style flour. 100% winter wheat. And with the Di Prima Ordine Farina, it's a domestic wheat. It's grown in the Midwest, and we're not saying it's a European flour. We're saying it's a European style flour. It's the same class of wheat, same protein, and totally untreated, no bleach, bromate, or enrichment. So European style flour, it's going to run, if you have the same class of wheat, the same protein, untreated, they're going to run virtually the same. And you're going to get a Neapolitan style, you're going to bake in that hot oven, you're going to get a Neapolitan style flour, a Neapolitan style pizza. This flour is also great for breads. It makes a great loaf of bread. But more importantly, you want to focus on the Neapolitan style pizza operators who are paying a significant amount more money for that importing of that flour. I've done a video about the Di Prima Ordine Farina, and you could, there's a lot of information on that you could refer to back. Again, Eric is going to make me appear as if I am in my kitchen again through the magic of video. So I will catch you on the other side of the kitchen video, and we'll talk about all-purpose flour. So the next dough I'm going to mix is the Di Prima Ordine Farina, and I just wanted to show you 77.5. I was shooting for 78 on this dough, on the All Trumps dough. Also temp the water on the Di Prima flour. When you're making a dough out of winter wheat for a Neapolitan style pizza, it's very basic. It's water, salt, flour, and yeast, and that's it. There is no sugar, no oil, high heat oven, and that's pretty much the Neapolitan style. So again, adding the water first. Flour and salt. Yeast on top. Now, I'm not going to mix it for 30 seconds. I'm just going to mix it. I'm going to mix it out for about 7 or 8 minutes. It'll be done at that point. We'll pull it out. I'll show you the stretch on that dough. Okay, the Di Prima dough is done. I'm at 78 degrees, right about where I want it to be. I try to shoot for 76 to 78, 79, 80 degrees in that area. When you have a thermometer, trust me, your customers will save a ton of time with it. I spoke about that in an earlier Flour Detective, and like I said, you can see I'm within a degree anytime. Now the Di Prima dough is done, and what I want to show you, see the stretch? This is what's called window painting, when you sort of know the dough is done. I'm going to try and get it close. I don't know how great a shot it's going to be, but you can see right here, sort of the gluten. You can see the strands of gluten. I'm going to try and get it as close as I can. Again, a dough stretches. A dough, protein develops dough. It will develop something. It develops a batter, but it can't make something that's going to stretch like this. Final thing I'm going to talk about is all-purpose flour. And again, it's a winter wheat, lower protein. Now we're on the 10 to 11.5% protein scale. So if you're thinking of an all-purpose flour, think of a soft roll, a dinner roll, snowflake roll, that type of thing. Very soft, a little bit of a chew to it, but it's sort of like a melt in your mouth type roll. All-purpose flour, Chicago deep dish pizza, that's what Chicago deep dish pizza is primarily made of. Not when your customer rolls out a dough. If they roll out a dough of all trumps or higher protein flour, it's going to stretch back a little because it's so elastic. Not as much with the all-purpose flour. When you roll out an all-purpose flour, it's going to have a little shrinkage, but nothing really that much. It's not going to shrink back into the into a smaller dough because there's not as much elasticity to it. When you roll it, it's going to probably pretty much stay about the same area that you rolled it in. Great for thick crust pizzas, great for focaccia. Use most of just about every restaurant you walk in is using an all-purpose flour for bread. They use baked product. They make cookies out of it, though I prefer soft wheat, like a pastry flour for cookies, but we'll talk about that in the next Flour Detective. Muffins, quick breads, things like that. All-purpose flour, that's the name, and that's what it means. It can make anything. In a pinch, you can make a loaf of bread out of it. It's going to be an okay loaf of bread. Is it going to be like an old world style Italian bread? No, but it'll be a suitable loaf of bread, and you can make muffins, quick breads, anything out of it. So that's a quick overlook, and I gave you a little bit of dough handling with it to show you the difference in the spring wheats and in the winter wheats and how to mix them. If you have any questions, feel free to give me an email. Shoot me an email, tom.santos@genmills.com. Thanks for your time and look forward to talking to you soon.